All right. Real quick. So we've got a couple questions on propane versus electric. I think it's all circumstantial. I think if the easiest, simplest thing to do is if you can plug into the city or civic utilities, do that. I think using a tankless, on-demand hot water heater, which is propane, um, is a good idea. I think it's more efficient, it's more cost effective. You can, if you're going off grid, that is an entirely other world and an entirely, yeah, it's another universe of things and considerations. I'll just touch real quick on off grid because everyone has a million questions about it. Um, First thing is, same with intentional living. You've got to catalog what you do use as far as energy goes, and you're going to have to very much adjust what you use and how you use it. Off grid varies widely depending on where you're located and how much sun you can get. Um, I would say as many appliances as you can run on propane. I would. Uh, I would run your fridge, hot water heater. I would definitely use gas and propane, cooktops, um, mini split, propane mini split. Uh, Mini split is the biggest draw and suck of your power. Um, I think if you're going off grid, I would. The size of your battery bank is huge. Uh, have as big a battery bank as you possibly can, because if you have a week of clouds, I mean, you're going to run out of juice, and you always want to have a generator on hand. And your generator, you can run those things until they run out, until they die, and they're great ways of recharging your batteries. Um, but yeah, there's so many components to off grid. You want to simplify everything you do as much as possible. All LED light anyway. I don't know if I'm answering your question. I go all in electric versus propane. I like gas cooktops. I like gas ovens. I think they're better. On demand hot water heater, I think, is better. That's a propane water heater. Uh, Less space. If you can have one outdoors, cool. If it doesn't freeze where you're at, if it does, have an indoor one. Yeah. Does that answer some of your questions? Heating and alpha. I mean, we can do any of my tiny houses. So step back to my company is New Frontier Tiny Homes. I'm a CEO and founder of New Frontier, head designer. It's newfrontiertinyhomes.com, at New Frontier Tiny Homes on Instagram. We've got 4 basic models. We're releasing a new model with the Tiny House Hotel, Stay New Frontier, that will release sometime in the summer if travel becomes a thing again. House heating in your alpha tiny house. Again, you can do a propane heater. I usually use mini splits, even if it's an off-grid system. Mini splits are electric heat and AC. They're very efficient. With such a small space as a tiny house, they easily heat and cool the unit. And mini splits are no-brainers. If you live in California or someplace where you don't need AC, it's nice to have just in case. I would always recommend having it just in case. But you can get by with propane heaters, marine heaters. I love a wood-burning stove. However, it is a liability for a builder to install, and that's one of those things you should install yourself. DC versus AC refrigerator. I mean, DC refrigerator is great. Those can work. They don't work as well. I think if you're wise with your refrigerator and just don't keep it open very long, you can be pretty efficient with your fridge. That does take a lot of power, draw a fair amount of power if you're off grid. Let's see. Propane causes humidity in the home. It can. I mean, ventilation is everything. So you want to have. I strongly recommend getting a hood vent, and I strongly recommend especially if you're somewhere where the temperature, you have to close your windows a lot. You want to have good ventilation. Have really good ventilation in your bathroom. Even potentially put a vent in your bedroom. If you can open your windows, do when you can open your windows. I open my windows in my house when I'm heating or cooling, even if it's in the winter, simply because airflow is amazing and getting all that heat and humidity from cooking is great. Let's see. No sound. Anybody else no sound? Let's see. Intentional communities. This is a little bit of a bigger one, but this is very important to me as community, and how I'm hoping what can come from the tiny house movement and then from this whole COVID nightmare is that we reimagine how we live in community. And I think we're all very hungry for community, to have people to help us, live our lives, to support us, for us to support. And we've been living in tribes and small groups where our children, every issue, worry we have is a shared responsibility. And now we're so isolated. And I'm staunchly independent person, but the price of independence that we experience and the society we have now, it's amazing, but it's a very high cost. We're very isolated, we're very alienated. It's hard to find people to help, watch your kids, whatever, just a safety net for economic hardship. There's so many different things. And so I think living in intentional communities is a great idea. What I see as an intentional community is a group of people coming together. And community is hard work. It's perpetual compromise, as is anything worth doing, any worthwhile relationship. But I think setting the community up in a way, the way I envision it is I like micro housing. I think building on foundation is the way to go for creating a community. But I like the idea of keeping the American dream, having a plot of land that you can own, making it very small, putting houses, if it's in an urban setting especially, houses close together, designing them in a way that they have privacy. The windows are not on the sides, so you have privacy. You have a common area, so say there's houses all around, some shape, depending on the land. You have a common courtyard or big yard, with like common, really nice, oven, grill, a hot tub, a pool. A little common building, maybe even like a sauna in there. But common shared space that you can rent or book, that you have dues that go to this. And then in your backyard, in the back of the house, the kind of shotgun, skinny, 600, 800 square feet, big enough to have a small family. And in the backyard, the back of the house, you have your own private little yard garden. It's small, but it's privacy. You have your ability to be outside in nature in private. I think it's really important if you're in community to lay out the laws, the expectations, every relationship, especially with strangers and with multiple people, very clearly laying out expectations in writing, and contractual writing is critical for it to work. A way to resolve dispute, just somewhere to point back to if there is a disagreement. Well, this is what the rules say. This is what we've all agreed to. I think that's very, very important for it to be successful, because it's a compromise. There's going to be disagreement. There's going to be frustration. It's a lot of work, but I think the benefits outweigh the challenges. Does that help? Mold and mildew issues with propane. Again, like airflow is critical. I think if a hood vent goes a long way. I don't use everything on propane. Like again, having a mini split, even if you're off grid, I think is a great idea. That's just me. Fresh air is good for the mind, the body, the soul. Opening those windows as much as possible, getting some airflow in there. I think, I just think airflow is everything for mold and mildew, and insulation. I would splurge always on insulation. I would use spray foam or some kind of natural insulation, but you just want to make sure there's not a lot of gaps in there for a lot of moisture to build up and develop. Tiny home communities, I mean, they exist. Google. They're hard to create, especially if they're on trailers. You got to be, basically in a trailer park. Zoning is everything. Codes and zoning. Basically, got to be in a trailer park or out in a rural area where they don't really care, or they're open to making exceptions. As far as building them on foundation, it's the economics have to work out. It's an uphill battle, but the more people who can band together, and please sign up for my email list, the more people who can come together, and the way you get change is you get council people, local politicians on your side, right? So create a community in your neighborhood, or a place where you want to live, or an online community of people who want to live this way. And if you have people come together who have the ability to vote for a politician, your voice will be heard. And the more people you have, the better, and the more practical your presentation is, the better chance you have of getting change affected. That's to me the only real way we can affect political change. But you should always vote. Okay. Web address: newfrontiertinyhomes.com. Newfrontiertinyhomes.com. If you Google New Frontier Tiny Homes, David Latimer, New Frontier Tiny Homes, you'll come across the website. More solar panel questions. I mean, a solar system is expensive. It's an investment. I mean, it's quite expensive. It does pay itself off over enough time, but it is a big upfront investment. So it's hard to say again, it varies. There's no secret panacea. Sorry. There's no here's an off-grid system. It's going to work anywhere. It varies so much depending on where you live, how much sunlight you get, just so many different variables, how many appliances you have running, what your lighting's like. I mean, unfortunately, there's no simple do this and then you've got a great off-grid and solar package. There's just no way. There's so many variables. There's no way for me to tell you, oh, your electric bill is $70 in the summer. Well, if you have an off-grid system, it's going to be $22. So there is let me think of the website, but there's a website, a thing that Google does where you put in your zip code and they will tell you a number of variables for having a solar, doing a solar array. Trailer, gooseneck, do you recommend? I really like TrailerMade. I've had nothing but success with TrailerMade out of Colorado. Damon Deschamps, they're expensive, but here's something: if you're building your own tiny house, or if you're getting a tiny house built, your trailer is your foundation. Do not skimp. Do not buy an old trailer. Don't buy a rickety thing. Do not skimp. Splurge on your trailer. It is everything. If you do, I guarantee you, sure as gravity, you will suffer the consequences at some point down the line. And those consequences are, could be as big as rebuilding your home entirely. So TrailerMade, they're expensive or they're higher price, but they're great quality. And I have total faith in those things. TrailerMade. Thank you for the kind words, people. Thanks for the plug. Let's see. Did I miss some questions? For with a family, that's a great question. That's a whole nother world. I mean, I have a few designs. I have a new one that's coming out with the tiny house hotel. It's got 2 ground floor beds on either side of the house, divided down the middle. I think that would be a great one for a kid and parents or some kids. Going tiny with a family is another world. Yeah, I don't know. There's just so many things to go into. I honestly, I don't. Yeah, I don't have a family. I don't have kids. There's people with blogs out there who have kids and families who've made the transition. They're going to give you a lot better info. I would deep dive into those things. They're going to tell you what it's like and set realistic expectations. However, I have built for families. So we do have units that are designed and built for families. The Escher was one of those, and it works great for 2 parents and a kid. I think we can modify that for 2 kids, 3 kids in a tiny house is whoa Nelly. Mad respect. But yeah, I don't have a specific family in mind, but there's a number of them out there. But we do have models for families, so check them out. And email us, Matt at New Frontier Tiny Homes, Matt at newfrontiertinyhomes.com. Matt handles all things sales and a bunch of other things. Social media, he is a badass, a great human being. Let's see, what else we got? I don't really have recommendations on tiny house communities in different places, unfortunately. There's different people doing different things, and we're not all, connected or in cahoots together. There's one in Tennessee called Deer Lake Creek that seems pretty cool. It's in a pretty area. Skylight in the loft, great idea. Sound is fine for most people. Let's see. How to heat with a bedroom and a loft. I just put the mini split somewhere around where it goes up. Thankfully, heat rises. So if you have the mini split somewhere near the loft, like I like it. If you got bedrooms on both ends of the house, putting one kind of in the middle of the house, depends on a number of things. How are your walls situated? You can always just put a propane heater up in the loft or near the entrance. That's a nice way to get extra heat up there. 1-story houses primarily out of glass. Yes, we have done, depends on what you mean, but shoot Matt an email, Matt at New Frontier Tiny Homes. This is Sharon. It doesn't say the whole name. So Sharon BU. Yeah, we have 1-story tiny houses. It depends on what you're looking for exactly, but shoot Matt an email. Funny stuff. Heat wall loss. Keep it open. I'd say, keep it open. The propane heater, if you've got plenty of electricity, just a little mini space heater. Those are great. Those easily heat up lofts. You have a really small one. Okay. Someone recommended this. Search tinyhousevillages.com. Cool. I'll check that out. I've never heard of it before. I like that. Search tinyhousevillages.com for finding communities. Jill Cantor, reach out to Matt. Yeah, did I live in a tiny? Absolutely. The first alpha I built, which is an episode on HGTV's Tiny House Big Living. I lived in that for about a year with a girlfriend for most of it, alone for some of it. I wound up partnering with Disney to take it up to the New World Trade Center in New York, and we wrapped it in a big present and gave it away to a family who lost everything in the wildfires in California in 2017. It was a crazy experience, and it was all presented live on Good Morning America. So I've spent plenty of time in them since then, but I haven't lived in a tiny house since then. Co-housing, yeah, co-housing is to me that's an intentional community. I like the idea of co-housing though. I like the idea of not sharing walls or floors. I like the idea of having an actual house. I think there's a big distinction psychologically, physically. Uh, in cities, it's dense. You have to density is necessary. You can't do that in every city, in every neighborhood, and every place, and it's also economically more expensive to do it that way. But yeah, co-housing. Look into co-housing. It's a very interesting way of living. I know a number of people who do it in different capacities in San Francisco and the Bay Area. It's very interesting. But if you're hungry for community and you're hungry to share space and resources with people to cut your cost of living and still live in a cool place, yeah, co-housing is a great way to do it. Um, yeah, co-housing it's a movement that's growing. It's going to continue to grow, especially as real estate property values increase. More people want to live in cool areas, not in the suburbs. They want to live in cities. They want to live in places surrounded by cool things and interesting people. Yeah, so co-housing it is a very interesting thing. There's a bunch of different places, people doing it in different cities and different places. You get a lot of it, more and more of it, in the Bay Area, and Portland has a number of them. There's a couple in here in Nashville. There's one going up in the actually in a rural area, which will be cool. But I think that's a really viable way to live. That's an important part of I think the evolution of residential housing, especially in urban settings. Let's see. Have I ever lived in an intentional community? No. I mean, I guess it depends on what you mean by that. I've lived with roommates, which is a small intentional community. I've lived in different settings where I kind of had my community, but as far as like a co-housing community, no. I dream about it. I've talked with a number of different friends and different groups and different places, and we dream about setting one up. I would very much love to have one out in a more rural setting, like in the woods somewhere. They can get kind of community sounding, but I want to live, especially I want to have kids someday, hope sooner than later. And I would love to be in a place where I'm surrounded by friends and people who I love and cherish and family, and we are in close proximity together. Um, it's intentional community. Things like this happen by people like yourselves coming together and talking to each other and finding people in your area and where you want to be who are doing these things and engaging them. I mean, we can engage anybody now. So find people who are doing it, ask them questions, find people in your neighborhood, look for people in your area who are doing that or who are interested or who are talking about it, and start engaging them. I mean, these things happen by people having conversations and dreaming first, and then looking at practical challenges. Is it spray foam toxic? Yes, it does off gas. It can off gas, but I think if you use thick, for me, interior siding, good low VOC paint, to me, it's very nominal. And if you're ventilated well, there is a lot of natural. There's more and more natural insulations. They're quite expensive. Only 5 minutes left. Quite expensive. I mean, old denim, which is not great, but there's different types of wool that are good. Let's see. Yeah, dual power fridge and freezer, absolutely. I mean, I think when it comes to electricity, having backups for the backups is always a great idea. Having a generator, whether you're no matter what, I think having a generator is great because if you're in a place where power goes out, it's nice to have electricity. Um, if you can switch to some things to battery, even if you don't have solar, having batteries, I mean, being solar prepared is awesome. Um, Dual power, though, is it's not a bad idea at all. Are you in your? Hang on, somebody over right now. No, I'm in a normal house. I don't have enough time to give you all a tour, but it's on a website on New Frontier Tiny Homes under interior design. Which, by the way, I'm expanding past tiny homes to more traditional interior, or getting back into traditional interior design. So I'm excited about that. That's one of the things we're going to be doing this year. Of course, everything's up in the air. Um, let's see. I don't get out my personal email, but shoot Matt at newfrontiertinyhomes.com an email, and that's the way to move forward. Trailers 10 foot wide, absolutely. They're 10 foot wide trailers. We're building 10 foot wide tiny house right now. Tiny house out of the price range. We have the Luna. The Luna is our economical model. It's new. It's awesome. If you're looking for a more economical tiny home, Liberation Tiny Homes are amazing. I can't believe I haven't talked about them. Liberation Tiny Homes. I have partnered with them. They've taken over production. I built for the first few years, and I'm moving on to different things. I'll always do design, but Liberation Tiny Homes out of Pennsylvania. They're amazing guys, amazing team, amazing culture, and they make unbelievable quality tiny homes that are much more economical. So check them out. Let's see. I don't have any kits. Yeah, there's some good stuff in here. Look through these things. There's some good stuff in here about. Yeah, there's just a lot of things about the air and propane. I mean, I open the windows and doors. I'm telling you, just do it. Open the windows and doors. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and have it ventilated. Spend some extra money to get a hood vent. That can do a ton for a great room living space. I think having circulated air is very important too. I mean, mini splits do a lot for that. 1 minute left. Radiator space heater. Simple rolling oil filled radiator space heater. Mark Kinney has an interesting one. Mark, link us to that product. That sounds cool. Let's see. There's a bunch of questions about designing and building tiny houses for others starting a business. I don't mean to burst your bubble, but I would not do it. It's a challenging world where the product is very hard, almost impossible to finance. It's hard for people to buy them, and you can't put them very many places. So I don't mean to be a downer, but it is immensely more challenging than designing and building traditional homes. It's a challenging industry for everybody, even the top dogs. That's it. Yeah, again, email Matt at newfrontiertinyhomes.com with questions. Love to answer them. Love to follow up. Website, newfrontiertinyhomes.com, at newfrontiertinyhomes, Instagram. Conversate there. Thank you. Rockwell's pretty good. Thank you. Enneagram 4. I know. I'm trying to say, I want to, if I close that, I don't get to see the comments. If I close that, I don't get to see your comments. 4, wing 3 with some 7. But I love the Enneagram. Enneagram. What are you? What is your Enneagram, Laura? Ooh, beautiful rain. How do I make comments? Four, stick together. 4. Wait, can you hear me? You can't hear me, can you? You can hear me. Really? This is still happening? Y'all can hear me? Oh, sweet. Okay, let's keep talking. I didn't realize that. Okay. Sweet. How do I design my tiny houses? So it all starts with function, right? You got to know what you need in there, which is a big part of the intention, because being intentional living, because don't have very much space. So I list out the things I know I need. I list out the things I know I need. I list out the things I want. And then for me, the inside determines the outside. So your floor plan determines where your windows are going to go, door placement, all those things. It's hard for me to explain. I know I always want to put a lot of light in there, a lot of natural light, and I know I want to have really cool, sexy lighting design. But it all starts with the layout, the floor plan. I start with my floor plan, and I almost always have an elevation in mind. Like I have a shape to how I want the house to be. Sometimes that actually comes first, is like this shape. But it's kind of just like function for sure drives the beginning, and I never compromise function. But I think one of the things that I do differently, or that my ethos is very different from a lot of American builders, is that I don't compromise form. I'm just not, I refuse to put something out that I don't think is beautiful. I'm an artist first and foremost. So I just, I just refuse to make it look crappy. I'd rather cut out my margin as a businessman, as a business owner, and make it look beautiful and something I'm proud of than, make it dumbed down and ugly and boring, or just the same as everything else. I don't know if that answers your question at all. But I typically, honestly, I see it all in my head, to perfect detail about how I want it to get. And then I use, the program I use is SketchUp, which anybody can learn. There's free versions online. It's hard to learn. It takes consistent practice, but getting conceptual stuff is really easy. Are you an architect, French architect? Virginie. Cool. Yeah, I don't know if that was helpful actually talking to an architect, but um, I also, this is the thing that's nice about being a tiny house designer versus an architect is and I'm a builder too, right? So one of the things about architects that drive a lot of builders crazy. Oh, this book is amazing for you, Virginia. Uh, a place of my own. It's incredible story about the dichotomy between architecture and building. Architecture being white collar, builder being blue collar. It's a class struggle. Anyway, one of the things that drives me crazy about architects is the either laziness or hubris or both to never look at the site where it's being built and also to not understand how things get built. Um, I take big risks with design. I want to do crazy, weird stuff. I want it to make it look different. I want to make huge challenges for building, but I'm always trying to make it buildable. And I'm always trying to translate the cool concept, this crazy, weird concept into like, let's get this thing built. I'm trying to solve problems for builders, right? For the building of itself. So being able to be a tiny house designer and builder has been really cool because I control both of those things. I've learned a lot. I've learned to compromise certain design goals and demands. But yeah, I mean, Murphy beds versus slide under. Does that answer your question? Does that help, Virginie? Every place I looked at, since you're closer than a trailer park, that looks like a tiny house community. Cool. Tell me yours. I'm always wanting to learn how to better my process. Murphy beds versus slide under floor styles that I use. I think it depends on the space and what you're trying to accomplish. The slide under is nice because you have a sofa on there, whereas Murphy bed just becomes a wall, and unless that space kind of, if it's a hallway, cool, but it kind of becomes a dead space right there, where the Murphy bed folds down into. You can figure out shelving to kind of put underneath there, or you can figure out ways to utilize that space with a Murphy bed, but I find it to be easier just to put a sofa on the front of it and have it slide out. I found that to be better use of space and functionality. Cool. Nashville, for sure. Nashville boy. Anybody else? Any other questions? All right. I'm going to sign off. Thank y'all so much for joining. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate all your questions. One last question. This is cool. Thank you, Nashville. Man, it's tough. Honestly, I would start finding developers. I would start talking with developers who are interested in this and want to try to make it happen. Nashville's a tough place to make it happen because of the economics of it, because land value is so high. Banks right now, land values are going to drop quite a bit, most likely, but banks are not going to lend. I would look at places further outside of town. But it's tough. You got to find that right ingredient of the right price on the property, the right number of homes. You've got to have a political goodwill. It's going to keep asking this question to a lot of people. Yeah, it's not, unfortunately, there's not like a simple way to do it. We should have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. Reach out on social media. I'm also, my personal is at David Latimer _. At David Latimer _. Yeah. Cool. Anything else? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Thank you again, everybody, for joining. I really appreciate it. It has been a pleasure. Stay in touch.